Hello, everyone. Welcome. If you're here, say hello. I'd love to know where in the world you are joining us from. I'm Renee Powers. I am on the marketing team and seller experience specialist here at PangoBooks. And if you're new to Pango, welcome. We are a marketplace, a peer-to-peer marketplace for book lovers to buy and sell books to one another. Um, I see we've got folks from Illinois, we've got folks from Missouri. Thank you so much for being here. I am located in Minneapolis. Our team is all over the country, but I'm in Minneapolis and it is 4 degrees today. So I am hoping for some sunshine soon and hopefully some warmer weather. We've got some Philly, a couple of Pennsylvania folks here. Esther's joining us from the DC area. Esther is also a member of the Pango team. So if I don't catch a question, I'm sure she will flag a question for me. So you are welcome to ask any questions in the chat. We're going to make this as interactive as you want it to be. And today we're talking about book conditions and how to list accurately on Pango. So this is specifically for sellers, but also great for potential buyers to understand necessarily what a good versus a fair versus an excellent book condition might mean. And as you can see behind me, I have lots of examples. So the book conditions that you can select when you are selling books on Pango include new, like new, excellent, good, fair, and poor. And there is no judgment around any of those, particularly around poor books, poor condition books. I will give you some examples of why poor condition books are welcome on Pango and why somebody might want one. But I also want to caution you against using the condition new. Our new condition is really meant for professional booksellers and authors selling their own books. And I'm going to start with an example here. I just got this book in the mail from a friend of mine. It was a gift directly from a local bookstore. It looks fantastic, right? Clean. Ooh, it smells, it has that new book smell, you know what I mean? That ink and paper. No, there's no damage in shipment. I would not list new if I were to sell this on Pango, which I'm not because it was a gift. I'm not going to list this as new because you just saw me do it. I have flipped through it. I did look at the table of contents and I was really curious about that. That prevents me from selling it as new. I am also not necessarily a professional bookseller. Maybe I am in a previous life, but I didn't get this directly from the publisher. I didn't get this from a distributor. I got this from a friend, from a bookstore, and that prevents me from selling it as new. So if I were to list this, which again, I'm not because it's a gift, I would list it as like new because again, I did flip through it. And that is really the only time you should list as new is if you are a professional bookseller, if you got it directly from the publisher, directly from the author, or you are the author yourself. That's what new really means. It looks exactly like you would get it in a bookstore. I know we have some super sellers here, and I know I've talked to several of you who have accounts with publishers and with distribution centers. And so if that's the case, like, yes, that's part of your business, that's part of your business model. Maybe you have like a mobile bookstore, or maybe you have a pop-up bookstore, or a physical bookstore. In those cases, you are welcome to sell as new, but otherwise for the rest of us, you are more likely going to put that as like new. So let's talk about like new. It's never been read. There are no flaws, like I mentioned. It might have just been sitting on your shelf for a couple of months. You decide, you know what, I don't actually want that book. I'm no longer interested in that book. Or maybe you listen to it on audio and you didn't necessarily want to keep the physical copy of that. You could mistake it for new, but it has possibly been sitting on your shelf for a little while. And you will want to inspect it to make sure that, it's not dented in any ways, shoving in and out of your shelf, that the spine is, all these corners are free from any bends, folds, that it smells normal, right? I do want to make a note about odors. That's one of the things that our customer support team does run into frequently, actually, is the odor of a book, even pleasant odors. Um, if you are notorious for, I don't know, burning incense, or you have an issue, not an issue, if you have an affinity for perfumes, I do, you might consider listing your book more along excellent, even if it is like new, and just noting that, you know, it's in a room that has a candle, or a home that has two cats, or a home that you share with a smoker. If it is a smoke scent, that's something that we actually run into quite often. Make sure that you just put it's a smoke friendly home in your description and list it as excellent rather than new. um, that will prevent any issues with for customer service to work out, or for, you know, your review. As a seller, you want to make sure you get those 5-star reviews, and if you just notify the buyer that, hey, you know, I live with a smoker, um, the book is in a different room, like those kinds of things, like, you can prevent or at least mitigate some of the concerns and issues that we see popping up. Same with pets. A lot of folks are really sensitive to pet dander. A lot of folks are really sensitive to, like I said, even pleasant smells. So they can trigger migraine headaches. They can trigger allergies. So just be mindful of that. And certainly don't spray your books with any sort of like perfume or air freshener prior to shipping. We're not Elle Woods here. I think that she had like a scented resume and Legally Blonde. There's no need for that here. You're shipping the book. It should smell like paper. And let's see. So moving on. So like new again is you haven't necessarily read it. Maybe you flipped through it. Maybe you listened to it on audio instead, and you decided that you're not gonna keep it in your library. So you're gonna list it as like new, not necessarily new, but like new. Moving on to excellent. Would you like to see like visuals? I have slides, but I don't know if that's, I don't know. We'll pop those slides open actually, if I can remember how to do it. Here we go. Hey, all right. Here are the graphics that I created. And I think, can I do half and half? Yeah. Here we go. So you can still see me a little bit. So, like I said, new, brand new, never open, meant for professional booksellers or authors. Like new, never read, no flaws. Maybe it's been on your shelf for a couple of months. Now we're moving on to excellent. So, an excellent book. Book condition is a book that has maybe a couple of tiny flaws. It's been gently read. There's no writing, no underlining, no dog ears, no discoloration of the pages. There's no scent to it. Or if there is a scent, that's the only thing wrong with it. Or if there are a couple more flaws, that's the only thing wrong with it. If there is an underlining or a name inside the front cover, that is the only thing, the only issue. I have I have several examples, and I'm going to tell you why I would list these as excellent. This is my excellent stack. All right, so here I have Pachinko. You can see that the spine is uncracked. I am very gentle with my spines. I did read this one. It was very gently read. The only issues are a little bit of shelf wear. So I'm going to try to get as close as possible. There are some dents here along the side, and the same goes for here. There's like a little, just like a little dent here in the spine. Otherwise, it's clean. There's no name. There's no writing. It is, yeah, it's in really good condition still. And this is not for sale on my Pango store because I love this book. But I wanted to show you, if I were to list it, it would be in excellent condition and smells like nothing. Same goes for a book. Here's a hardcover that I would list in excellent condition. Same thing. Spine is in excellent shape. When I'm listing hardcovers with a dust jacket, I will always list the front, or take a photo of the front, take a photo of the back, take a photo of this edge, and then what I'll do is I will pull back the dust cover, and then I will take a photo where you can see the spine and the dust cover. I think that shows the condition of the spine and the condition of the book itself more so than, what that might look like if you were sewing the spine this way. I always, on paperbacks, I always show the spine in my listings and strongly recommend you do that too. This is in excellent condition, I consider, because, again, gently read, no markings, no staining, no odors, no dents or tears or anything along those lines. However, you can see a little bit of shelf wear. So over here, we've got, it's hard to see here, but there's a little bit of discoloration along the top here, and there is this little, just like a worn spot on the edge. Now, this is a good example of, like, what do I do with this? There's a, half price book sticker on the front. Otherwise, exceptional condition. Smells fine. Again, the book itself is in great shape. There are no issues there. There's no writing. There's no folds. The only thing is the sticker. Maybe I bought this new. Does Half Price Books sell new books? I don't know. Maybe I bought this new from Half Price Books and never read it. It sat on the shelf. Even so, it's not like new on Pango. It's going to be excellent at most. If it had a couple of other issues, this does have a little bit of just discoloration, but no staining and no like molding or foxing. I will show you examples of foxing when we get to fair and poor. It's a part of the aging process of paper, but you can see it's otherwise in excellent condition and feels like it's never been read. The spine isn't cracked. The glue seems pretty standard. Another thing that prevents you from listing something as like new versus excellent is a remainder mark. This is a remainder mark. It's usually black or red. It's usually a dot. What remainder marks mean is that a bookstore overbought in a certain title. So this is a brand new book and otherwise excellent condition. Hasn't been read. Oops. And the only thing here is this remainder mark. Bookstores bought too many of this title and returned it to the publisher or returned it to the distributor. And then the distributor resells those books as overstock. So you'll see these in like flea markets, or I think Half Price Books does get a lot of these, or like Better World Books gets a lot of these, or even the like front hallway of a Barnes and Noble, you might see have remainder marks on them. And they just indicate that they've been purchased and returned. And you can usually get them for fairly cheap, which is why, we would suggest that get listed under excellent, especially if it's a red, if it's a red mark like this one. We've had folks reach out and tell us, I think there's blood on it. No. I'm 90% certain that's just a remainder mark. They tend to use red or black permanent marker on the edge like that. So if you see that, that's what it is. Sometimes it's a dot, sometimes it's a line, and it's usually on the edge of the book. Another thing that you might see is I've got this book here, again, in exceptional condition. I did purchase this on Pango from a Pango user, and they did have it listed in excellent condition, which is what exactly it should have been. It is fantastic. The pages are crisp. It smells like a good new illustrated book. The spine is in great shape. The glue is in great shape. The pages are in great shape. But you can see it says Fargo Public Library on the edge. There is a library stamp here. It doesn't have a library card or any indication that it's a library book other than that one right there. And I do have another library book that I will show you that I would consider in good condition. Or actually, I would consider that one in fair condition. Typically, so if this did have maybe like a plastic coating, I'll show you to that right now, actually. This I would consider fair, but I want to show you what I mean by this. So this has that plastic cover on it. It also has, it has an old school card pocket in the front, which I just love. But the book itself is kind of old and kind of dingy, so that's why I would put it as fair. But if this book had that plastic covering, if it had a card catalog, I would list it as good. But because the only thing that is not perfect about this used book is that library stamp on the edge, I'm going to call that excellent. So, like I said, a couple of tiny flaws, gently read, no underlining, no writing, no dog ears, no, water damage, no discoloration along those lines. I'm loving the chat. Don't worry, I am I am seeing your chats. Is there a way to remove that plastic covering from library books? I don't know. I'm sure there is, and we have. I know that I've talked to some sellers that do that. I have no experience with it. I am sure there is a. I'm sure there is a YouTube video out there, and maybe that's something that we can look into and host on our own YouTube channel, which we are. This is going on to our YouTube channel. This recording, so check us out there. But that's a great suggestion for something for us to talk about. I'll look into that for you. Moving along, we're going to talk about good condition books, and I've got a few here. Good condition books are books that truly have no structural damage to it. They're readable. There's no pages falling out. They might have some minor flaws, some minor water damage, maybe to like the first 10 or 12 pages, some minimal underlining, minimal cracks in the spine. Nothing where, when you get a when you get a paperback and you can it falls open. None of that. And the pages might be slightly discolored, or there might be like a coffee stain. Oh, this is our coffee chat. Who's drinking coffee? I'm not. I've got matcha tea, but I've already had my coffee. In case you can't tell, I'm quite caffeinated. So, non-gross staining, I guess is what we'll call it. Ash, thank you in the chat for saying most library plastic coverings can be cut off, but you'll need to be careful if the front and back flap are glued down. Thank you for sharing that information with us. We'll also look into it too. So I want to talk about good condition books. Good condition books. Something like this you might think is excellent. Look at this. I mean, the spine is in great shape. Just looking at it, the edges are in great shape. There's no remainder mark. There's no library coding or stamp. However, there's quite a bit of underlining and notes throughout the book that don't impede the legibility of it. However, it's certainly not an excellent condition book, even though structurally it is. The amount of writing that's within this book is not ideal, and could really be detrimental to a sale if your buyer is not aware of all of the writing. And I believe this is one of my old textbooks, actually, and I believe my name is in the front. So I would probably, this is not for sale, but I would scratch out my name in the front of this as well and take a picture of it being scratched out. The same goes for personal library stamps. If you would like to take a photo of that, you can kind of hold if you don't want your whole name there, you can kind of cover it up with like your hand or a Post-it or something along those lines. This is another good book, is what I would consider this. And you can see that it's pretty well loved. This is one of my favorite books, and the pages are pretty yellow. The spine is in great condition, but you could see here the plastic coating on older books. This plastic coating on paperback starts to lift. And this is a probably 20-year-old book. So, I mean, we're not surprised to see some signs of age here. And again, I bought this on Pango knowing that it was in this condition, and I was totally fine with that. I just wanted a copy of this book. So yeah, you can see that that's lifting. The pages are just starting to yellow. There's no writing, there's no odor, there's nothing wrong with the spine. This is in good condition because pages are starting to yellow. The coating is starting to come off the plastic cover. Oh, and there is like a little bit of a dent back here, which you can't see. I won't be able to show that on camera, but it looks like, I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but there's a little dent in the back cover. So another one I would consider in good condition. Do you know when you get a book and it's just kind of like flimsy? The spine's in great condition. There's nothing wrong with the spine here. It's just kind of floppy. It's not crisp. It's not like, when it just kind of holds up. This one is kind of floppy. That's fine. Somebody's going to love this book, right? It does have some air, some wear along the corners. The edges have seen better days. It's been read. It's been loved. There's a little bit of, it looks like there's a little waviness to the pages, which, may have been in a humid area, may have gone to the beach once or twice. But no markings, clean, just kind of showing its age. It's in good condition. Lots of people would be so happy with a book in this condition and good condition. Oop, there's a dog ear. That's okay. Just take a photo of it and let folks know. And the same goes for this. Again, the spine is in good condition here. Mass market paperbacks tend to get a lot of travel love. And you'll see a lot of mass market paperbacks with spine cracks. That's to be expected. Just make sure you notify the buyer about that. You put it in the seller or in the product description. You can see the pages are starting to yellow here as well. There's a bit of discoloration along the edge here and in here. And there are a couple of stickers. There's a sticker here and a sticker here that has been torn off, but it's still there, and there's a little bit of residue here still. So I would just make a note of that. We've got a question let's see, I do this. If there are markings, is it fair? It depends. That's the answer to that question. So for this one, I would otherwise consider this book excellent because it is in excellent condition. However, there are so many markings in it that I dropped it down to good. However, this book is certainly fair condition because you can see there are lots of tabs. The cover is a little warped. The pages are flared. And the amount of writing in this is exceptional. Different colors, ink and everything. There's just so much. And you'll see a lot of this in like textbooks or academic books. Excuse me. That I would certainly call this one in fair condition. But if it didn't have as much writing, or if it didn't have as much damage to the integrity of the book, I might bump it up to good. So it really depends on, and that's what makes it difficult, right? And the way to mitigate that is just show photos and just say like, this book is, writing throughout most of the pages. This book, I might say, has writing throughout maybe 30% of the pages, just so your buyers are aware of what's there. Cool. Got your question answered. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. I've got a couple of other books that I would consider fair. And I already showed you this one, this library book. And we've got some more information from Elle. You can remove the plastic. It's usually taped to the book. The Elle uses a knife to separate the jacket from the book, and then you can slip it out. I haven't found a good way to remove the remaining tape from the inside and back covers, though. So that's another suggestion for library books. But then there are some of us who just don't mind the plastic covering and find it kind of charming. So don't feel like you have to remove this plastic covering if you are selling X library books. Just make sure that your buyers are aware that it is an X library book and show photos that indicate it is an X library book. So here we've got a barcode. Here we've got a card catalog number or a Dewey Decimal System. We've got, again, I just love the library card in it. And yeah, some tape here. And the tape is showing its age. The tape, oh gosh, is starting to lift and yellow. This book I would consider in fair condition, not just because it is a library book, but also because, you know, here's a remnants of a dog ear. Um, there are there's some staining on the outer edges of the book. It's just been read several times, and I mean, I love a book with a story, and so I'm happy to purchase an ex-library book that has some wear and tear to it. Fair books, which I would call this fair condition, significant flaws or water damage, significant underlining or writing, significant cracks in the spine, but it is structurally sound. There are no pages falling out. And no pages like threatening to fall out either. You know, if you were to pull them pretty good, they're not going to come out. The glue is still holding on. The thread is still holding on pretty well. Another example is just like it's been read and loved. You'll see this with like bigger books like this and like the one that I showed earlier, that especially paperbacks that are larger than your average book, they tend to be read like this. And that's great. Again, some people prefer a well-loved book that has been that has been worn in a little bit. But you can see there the back has quite a fold in it that has been straightened out, but it's still crinkled. Again, nothing is wrong with the structure of the book itself. It's just not as cute as she once was. I mentioned cracks in spine. Here's a great example of a spine with many cracks. Again, it's a mass market paperback. That's not unusual. They're meant to be read on the go. And you can see here, this page isn't coming out, but the spine is cracked pretty good. The structural integrity of this book is not 100%. But at this moment in time, these pages, the glue is still pretty strong. I would just make sure to take a photo like that, right, for my listing and show this situation. It does lay flat. The spine is that cracked. Also, this is so fascinating. This was purchased at the Sinclair Lewis Museum in 1980. So, I mean, I just, there are so many stories within used books. It's so beautiful and fascinating. So make sure that you show this. And I think your product description is also a really interesting place to tell the story of the book, right? Like I purchased this in 1980 at the Sinclair Lewis Museum in wherever that is. And and I'm passing it along. It's been well loved. My grandfather loved it, and it meant the world to me, and I hope it means the world to you too. Tell the story of your book. There's also, I don't know what this marking is. It doesn't look like a remainder mark, but there is some sort of marking on there. I would call that fair. And my last example of a book in fair condition, if the book is missing its dust jacket, it's going to be in good or fair condition. This is a James Patterson book that's missing its dust jacket. It just doesn't have it. It also has a significant, oh, that might be a remainder mark, actually. I think that's a remainder mark there, but the cover has some significant damage to it. Does it prevent me from reading the book? No, the legibility of the book is still there, but it honestly looks like it got caught in a door frame or something, or like, I don't know. I don't know what could have happened there. It got caught on something and ripped. So just make sure that you add photos of any of this kind of damage. Somebody still might want this, especially if you're selling this for a buck or two. What a great deal for a James Patterson book. Just happens to be missing the dust jacket and has a little bit of damage to it. But generally, if it is missing a dust jacket, I would put it as good at most. There's that. Finally, I have some poor condition books. And like I said, poor condition books may be collectible. That is up for the buyer to decide. I have listed this book because it is in poor condition, but it does seem like it might be nostalgic for somebody. You can see there is like a tape mark on the front. The thread, the binding is coming apart. front cover is coming apart, and just wait. Someone really wanted to scribble in this. I took photos of it all. The pages are coming undone and loose. Somebody has torn this page and taped it back up. Like this is poor condition. But maybe somebody wants to repurpose it. Maybe somebody wants just the cover and wants to create a journal out of it. Maybe somebody just wants the illustrations to cut out and use in their craft or their art of some sort. Just because it's not in great condition doesn't mean that nobody's going to buy it. It just means that you got to find that right person. In this case, I might use a hashtag like craft or collage or DIY. These are really, really great for those kinds of things. But just to make sure, like, would I sell this for anything more than $1? Absolutely not. So just make sure that you've priced it right. You've listed this as poor condition, and you take plenty of photos. Esther in the chat says we also have a lot of parents and family members who won't shy away from children's books in fair condition at a great price because they know their kid's not going to be gentle with the book anyways. That's a great point. I mean, I don't know if a kid should necessarily have this book because the pages are going to come out at some point, but crafters, that is all yours. And in this book, I don't have listed on Pango. It was given to me to list from a friend, and I was like, I just don't think this is worth listing. This is going to get donated or repurposed. I like to collage and craft, so I might use it for that. But here's just it's poor, and it's not even worth listing. You see, there's an issue here. This has a library sticker in the front. The binding is all sorts of messed up here. It's cool. It's a German dictionary, which is, I mean, rad, but I just don't feel comfortable selling this to anybody. Look at that. Look at that. Maybe a crafter would want it. Maybe a collector would want it. I just don't see that being the case. So I'm not going to list it. However, the one thing that I wanted to point out, I hope you can see this. I'm going to try to get as close as possible. Do you see these little dots? They're little red dots. They might look like little brown dots. This is not mold. This is what is called foxing. This is the natural progression of the aging of paper. It may be caused by mildew, but it's not mold. It's not going to make you sick. It's not going to be contagious to other books in your library. I just wanted to point that out. It's something that I learned working here at Pango because it was a term somebody shared, and I thought, I'd never heard of that. So I looked into it. Again, not necessarily detrimental to the book itself. However, you will want to make note of that and take some photos of it and indicate that, unless it's black, unless it is getting worse and worse and worse, it's not mold. It is foxing, and that is normal in old books. I have a couple of outliers I also wanted to share. Ooh, getting my workout, my stretches in today. So I have a book that comes with multimedia. It comes with CDs. Great. You are welcome to sell books with accompanying multimedia on it or with it. My issue with this book is it's missing one of the CDs. So I would absolutely point out that CD 1 of this book is not included. And even though this might be in excellent condition otherwise, which it's not, but let's pretend it is. Let's pretend like It's practically new. The sticker's not here. There is some writing in it. There are some markings in it. We'll just pretend that those don't exist. Even if it were in exceptional condition and it were missing one of the CDs, which it is, I would list this as good condition at most. And again, always make sure to note that in the product description, and always I would take a photo of this as well, of this, missing CD, just so folks are aware. We're just trying to mitigate, any issues that might come up. We don't necessarily want you to lose out on a sale. We don't necessarily want to have to negotiate a less than stellar review. So help us help you by adding as many photos as possible. And then the last kind of outlier that I wanted to talk about are signed books. And yes, I've got 2 books here that are signed. This one I listened to on audio. So the only time I opened this book, I have not read this physical book. I have read the audio version of this book. The only time that this book has even cracked open was when I met the author and she signed it for me, right? So even though this is new, it's like new, I would put this as excellent because it's not only signed, it's personalized. So it says, for my friend Renee. Yes, Cherie Dimmeline and I are besties. Just kidding, we're not, but she doesn't know who I am. And she's wonderful. Because it is personalized, please make a note of that it is inscribed, personalized, signed by the authors. Some collectors don't care that it has somebody else's name in it. Some collectors are very, very stringent about that. So I would put this as excellent, even though the only time I've opened this book is just for Cherie to sign this book. I would still put it as excellent if I were to sell it, which I'm not because it is a prized possession of mine. But, and I would also take a photo of the inscription just to get all my bases covered. But on the other hand, I've got this book that is also signed, that I purchased signed. Do you know at bookstores sometimes they just have signed copies? That's how I purchased this one. So it's not personalized, it's just signed. And it is physically signed too. It's not a digital replication of Isabel Ibanez's signature. It is really signed. So I would make note of that. I would put this as like new because, again, I haven't read this. Oops. But I love this author and I wanted to make sure that I was supporting her and getting a signed copy because look how pretty this book is. But anyways, I would maybe put this as like new, though it has been on my shelf for a little while. So let's say I just bought it at the bookstore, signed at the bookstore last week. I would maybe put it as like new. But, I have had this on my shelf for probably a year now. I've flipped through it a few times, so I would probably list it as excellent, but I would make a note that it is signed, but not inscribed, not personalized to anybody. So, and it is hand signed, and if not digitally signed. That's all I have for you today. That is a lot. I wanted to make sure that I got everything. The age of a book should not matter for your listing condition. So for instance, I don't have any examples next to me, but if I had a book that is maybe 20 years old, but it's in excellent shape for being 20 years old, it's still 20 years old, right? It's still not as crisp as it used to be. So I would probably drop that a level as good condition, because chances are the pages aren't quite as white, right, as a newer book. And that's normal, but even though it's normal, we still want to make sure that we're being as accurate as possible. And also older books, glue can deteriorate over time. So if it's a 20-year-old book, it's not going to have the structural integrity as a brand new book might. So just keep that in mind. I talked about odors. I talked about remainder marks. And yeah, I think that just transparency is key. The more photos, the better. As a seller myself, I started as a seller on Pango before I started working for Pango, so I've been doing this a long time. I I would just say, you know, my go-to, my rule of thumb is a photo of the cover, a photo of the back, a photo of this edge, a photo of this edge, and a photo of the um, copyright page. Because there's a lot of information here, even if you're not a collector, even if you don't understand what all this information means, another buyer might and might appreciate that. I and in doing this, I discovered that I had a first edition of a first edition, first printing of a collectible book, and I thought, whoa, this is worth way more than I expected it to be. And so and just my looking at the copyright page and then sharing the copyright page as proof that it is a first edition, first printing, um, can help you get sales and just generate trust and credibility in the Pango community. May says it's better to underestimate the condition listing than inflate it and let the buyer down. Absolutely, I could not have said it better. So thank you, May. Underestimate. Do not inflate a listing. Your honest, accurate listings and conditions is going to give you better ratings and create more trust and create more sales. And on our end, selfishly, as Pango, it makes it easier to determine if damage was incurred in transit versus if damage was there prior to shipping. If you list something as new and it shows up with, you know, a dent in the front cover, it's really hard for us to determine that it was done in shipment or if it was done, you know, so extra photos will help us with that as well. Oh, Brittany says, no buyers on Pango have let me down. So that's good. I'm so glad to hear that. All we want is a fun, easy, lucrative, efficient way to buy and sell books with other readers and share the love of used books and rehome good books to folks who might love them. And you just never know what people are looking for. Maybe they're looking for a Dr. Seuss book from the 70s that they can repurpose for a craft. Maybe they're looking for a first edition of a collector's item. Maybe they're looking for a signed copy of their favorite book, and they don't care what the condition is. I'm always amazed by what I stumble across on Pango, and honestly always amazed by what people will buy and won't buy on Pango. So it's always a delight to see new books find the right homes. So that's what I have for you today. I'm more than happy to sit here and answer any other questions you might have. A question I have for you is, we want to revive this series, and what do you think the next topic should be? What would you like to hear from us about? What kinds of things would be helpful for you as both buyers and sellers? May says, any thoughts on the ability to upload videos to listings in the future? It's a great suggestion. I don't have a timeline on that, but it is something that we have talked about. And it is something, like, big builds like that require a lot of just like butt in chair computer time to focus on that. And we are a very small team, so we may not be able to get to that right away, but no, it's on our radar. Videos and listings hopefully will be coming down the line. And other questions? Again, tell me what our next topic would be. I'm going to sit here for another 90 seconds or so. Drink my matcha. Talk about the listings that are getting a lot of attention but not selling. I'd love to know more. What you mean by that? We do. I mean, a lot of times it's a price issue. Some of our most wish listed, most liked listings are just that. They're a wish list. They're things that we hope that maybe a user hopes that they could afford in the future, or they're waiting for more PangoBooks to come in because they want to use their PangoBooks. They don't necessarily want to use their credit card. Yeah, I think it's probably going to depend. Or maybe it's an issue with there aren't enough photos in the listing, and folks may not be willing to take that risk of paying $50 for a book that they may not know for certain is in the condition that they're looking for. So again, I think that The more photos, the better. You can add up to 10, and um, use that especially for those higher priced books or those special editions or collector's items. Oh, that's a great suggestion, Esther. Esther says also check to make sure the weight on the listing is accurate. So the shipping fee will be accurate too. Yes. So there's a chance that our database is incorrect and the listing weight is, I don't know, 14 pounds for a single book, right? I don't think we have anything that egregious, but I'm just as an example. The way to get the most accurate shipping label is to input a custom weight. And to do that, instead of those weight ranges, when you're listing a book where it says 1 to 2 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds, or etc., there is an option to insert custom weight or enter custom weight, I think is what the verbiage is. And then it'll bring up a new text box. And in that new text box, you can put the exact weight of that book in ounces. That will override anything that we have in our system. So if we, erroneously have a book listed at 3 pounds when it's actually only 7 ounces, it will make sure that your shipping label and the shipping fee charged to the buyer, if they're the ones paying for shipping, that will be accurate. That will be charged for a 1 pound or less media mail rate. That's a great suggestion, Esther. Thank you for that. Oh, the book you're thinking of is listed for 50 cents. I mean, maybe it's just out of its prime. Maybe that title, are we oversaturated in that title? Do we have a million other copies of that title in better condition for maybe the same price? I understand. That's really frustrating. I have a lot of mass market paperbacks that are in my Pango store, and they're marked down to like 75 cents or $1, and it is tough. And at that point, it's just a waiting game. Shipping is probably the biggest issue there, because folks struggle to pay $4.99 for a 50-cent book. Unfortunately, our shipping rates are determined by the Postal Service, and we use the most affordable option that we can. Jessica says, weight by ounces. Will it not ship once packaging has been done? Oh, so packaging will add a couple of ounces. Typically, so media mail rates are by the pound, and it rounds up to the nearest pound. So if it's a difference between 7 ounces and 10 ounces, it doesn't matter, because anything under 16 ounces is a pound, and it will be the same rate. If you are in between, if you're at 15 ounces and before you package it, and then you package it and it's over and it's out 18 ounces, chances are that's not going to be an issue with the Postal Service. Chances are. However, I understand that you don't want to take any risks. And in those cases, we are more than happy to adjust that label for you. Just reach out to us and we can do that free of charge. Packaging adds a little weight. Yep. Packaging, as long as it doesn't put you into the next pound over, it shouldn't matter. Elle says, strategies for selling. How do you help old listings attract attention besides price drop or offers? That's a great topic for a future coffee chat. Thank you. It's something that I've been thinking about too, and I've been putting together some ideas. So yeah, definitely. That's something we'll talk about. Other suggestions? Also, May suggests rounding up when they weigh a book. So yep, an ounce or two if you want to round up when you put in your custom weight. Not a bad idea either. All right, folks, this is being recorded. So if you missed something, you can check back here on the Crowdcast channel, or we will be uploading it to our YouTube channel as well. I have to figure out how to get into our YouTube channel, and I'll do that. And once that's done, you're welcome to share. I know that there is a Facebook group, and May, your name is familiar. I think you're in that Facebook group. So if you want to share that there, you're welcome to. And another suggestion is fake reprints, how to spot them, etc. Yes, we can talk about that as well in a future chat too. Thank you so much for coming. Happy coffee chat and happy selling.